Okay, okay. Let me break down our important point here. So, do you, and if yes, when do you disallow a player from playing a specific character?
I have not done that ever, but from the one thing I can say is this might start a fight. It might be dependent on the specific player because some players have an inherent tendency to play certain types of characters uh, in a fashion that is not conducive to the enjoyment of other players or even the dungeon master. Uh,
Uh, an example, would you say like the really dark and brooding rogue that sits in the corner and doesn't want to associate with the players?
uh,
Or
that's
even further from that?
that's probably on the mild end of that.
Mild. Okay.
Probably the worst one is like the scholar character
Okay.
because then you have some players who are really prone to metagaming,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
they
I see
might
where we're
actually
going with
turn into a
this.
situation where their character happens to know everything about everything.
Such as if their player character wants to go and get like a literal edition of the monster manual.
Yeah, stuff like that. Uh, those kind of situations kind of get tiring because then the player is oftentimes using that as an excuse to open up the book as they're playing and then just reading out stuff from the book. Of course, as a dungeon master, you can change stuff, but you should not be forced to change stuff. You should
Because
be
the
able to just do it or change it as you enjoy it. So there you go. And then there's also some
you
players
are
who
heavily calling someone out and I'm
and then
all for it.
and then there's some players uh who are not to ever be allowed to play evil characters
Yeah.
because they go way overboard into that department or they don't understand good effective evil characters.
Yes.
Like they are the kind of person who thinks like a evil character is someone who screws over everyone possible or steals from everyone or kill or tries to enslave characters
Which that's just not it.
or do the forbidden R thing or other horrible acts because
Whereas you could have
they're
a
trying to obvious or the S thing
yes.
or use profanity and stuff like that, and that might bother some other players and so forth, or just literally re-traumatize some other player because apparently at some point they have been R'd or something else
Yeah.
or other. So some players lack the common sense to not do stupid shit like that.
And they should be disallowed from
And they
playing
should be
those characters.
disallowed from playing evil characters.
Or
Some
certain types of characters.
or certain types of characters. Some players can play evil characters perfectly fine. They understand that evil people or psychopaths don't necessarily come off as complete assholes. In fact, many of them actually put a great deal of skill and effort into looking as good as possible to everyone else. They avoid using harsh language. I mean, like real evil people,
Yeah.
not just grumpy people. Because I do kind of fall into the grumpy category sometimes when it comes to work and stuff like that. But there's real evil people, and the real evil people try to look as good as possible.
Yeah.
And the psychopaths will think into the future their grand master plan like I could well yes I don't really care about Bill, he could live or die, but he is a useful tool to me, so I will help Bill out in this situation as it gains me social credit with him, which allows me to call on his favors to use his truck or something like that
Yeah.
at, in life. And they might go around being very friendly to everyone, and then you find out they were a cannibal who killed old people and buried them, cooked them, and buried their bones in the basement or made furniture out of it.
Jesus Christ.
So, anyways, evil people don't necessarily have the scar on their face, wearing all black, and are horrifyingly scary. They could wear an ascot, look well groomed and dressed, and be super friendly. Okay, so
But they're just also terrible.
but they're fundamentally people that only really care about doing good things because it gains them social credit.
Yeah.
They may virtue signal like, oh, I donated this to this and this cause, and
Yeah.
I showed up to a protest and shit like that, or I went to church. And that's where you commonly get into that kind of situation. And the
So-
same thing happens in D&D. Is a good player who understands evil knows to play good
Let's say
to
you
get
got
where they want to go.
your player isn't trying to do an evil character. They're not trying to.
This turned into an evil advice video.
Yeah. Let's say it's not evil. Let's say it's not trying to do some abhorrent act to a characters or players or things like that. They just made. Let me use an example of they made a plasmoid, and you're trying to run a campaign where you are paladins of some order working for a cathedral, right? Or not necessarily paladins, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Holy knights.
The reason why I went to the topic I went to
Yeah.
is because if you're talking about a plasmoid or whatever crazy combo character,
You can make it work.
I personally don't care.
Yes, you can make
use
it work.
any combination of feats and class skills as long as it works in the mechanics of the system. I'm all for that. The only thing I'm touchy about is maybe like homebrew in that category.
Yeah.
But everything else is like, I want my players to make the most OP characters possible because I'm going to attack them with 3 owlbears wearing armor, and several of them have superpowers.
Yes. One of them's Lex Luthor.
I actually thought about like giving owlbears like breath weapons, like dragons.
Oh,
like,
do
giving
it.
them
Absolutely.
flight and shit like
100%
that, and
do
giving
it.
them armor. And that was actually a plot point I worked into my Lost Mines of Phandelver campaign, in that the players never got to.
So, for me, I will disallow something if it so heavily breaks a campaign idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give an example. Let's take an example. I'm going to use my character from before, Winter Waltworth. She was our cartographer. She heavily dealt with mapping out areas.
I would have allowed Winter Waltworth.
I would too.
Yeah.
But if the entire campaign of all the cat stuff.
Yeah.
If the entire
You
campaign,
got fuzzles all over you.
it'd be like that.
Frank be fuzzy.
If the entire campaign revolves around this inherent traveling and the escapades thereof, right? And this one character would be absolutely ruining that metric, which is outshining that key metric of what the campaign is doing.
A druid with good berry in a survival campaign.
Exactly. Then I would disallow it because it's just ruining so much of what would have been the fun aspect or the key factor that the players have to consider. And now it's not a consideration, right? So for me, I would disallow it if it so conveniently breaks my campaign, or if it's a one shot. If I'm allowing people magic items, I'll disallow certain magic items because it so breaks what I'm doing for the session. Example, let's say that
No flying boots and vicious antimatter rifle.
no, let's say that we're doing a one shot and I do it in the deep under ocean area, and I've got a bunch of water bubbles down there in like a cave system that people have to go between and swim, and someone wants like the helmet of water breathing or something. It's like, no. Because it's breaking the core mechanic of what I'm trying to build for the players.
So we have a water rift coming in the future.
There's a water rift coming. It's all coming. Everything. All at once.
Alrighty.
All right. Yes. So for me, I would disallow a lot depending on specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Would you allow those things in those situations?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Reasonable.
Because I usually just invent new crazy shit at like aquatic owl bears. And sharks that shoot sharks.
Like lasers, but more sharks.
Yeah, more sharks. It's a Matryoshka doll of sharks.
Okay. So generally, we both fully agree on that first bit. Inappropriate characters, absolutely disallow that. Nope. You can. Maybe there's a right table for you. This isn't it.
Yeah.
At least for that character.
That might be an interesting series of videos. Inappropriate characters.
Yeah. Mind you, that's an entire video if I try and explain that topic.
Of inappropriate characters?
No, the idea of so some players are right for some tables and wrong for some tables, and some players who can be right for a table will be willing to play some characters that are very wrong for a table.
Yeah.
But anyways, it sounds like we're very, very closely to the same page on disallowing characters. But you are less strict when it comes to specific settings, and I am more strict when it comes to specific settings.
That's just because I just like to invent crap up on the fly.
I do too, but sometimes I got my idea that I want to see play out.
Like owl bears that are infused with steel in their feathers.
I'll do that
So
anyways.
they're basically shredding blades that are heavily armored by default. They have full plate feathers that just grow back.
All right.
They have like C21.
Someone tries to hit you with a owlbear character right now. Do you allow it?
An actual owlbear?
An actual owlbear.
Good grief. Yeah, I'll go with owlbear.
You allow it?
I used enough owlbears, or I basically know owlbear.
Okay. All right. Anyways, that's been John and
Jason?
with Tabletop Wisdom. Subscribe or something?
Very much consider subscribing. Once we get up to that like 500 mark or 1,000, we might get some pocket change.
I think we have 45 subscribers or not. That's a lot of subscribers.
Yeah. And at that point, we can actually start giving the kitties extra treats.
That's true. We could give them treats, but we don't have enough. I'm joking. They get treats regardless.
Oh yeah, the kitties just enjoy themselves.
All right. Thank you for being here. You guys have a wonderful rest of your days.